inspired, fully engaged. You're tuning in to Reality with Vicki Gunvalson.
So, hey everyone, welcome back to Reality with Vicki, and I'm super excited to have today's guest. He is somebody that I've known for a very long time, I think 15 years or more. His name is Mike Lindstrom, and Mike and I met, he was counseling and helping insurance agents and insurance companies. And I did this Life with Vicki endeavor, which was living inspired, fully engaged. He had an opportunity to come to some of my insurance events and just super excited. So there's going to be a lot of questions and more details. But I want to just kind of say thank you, Mike. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you in forever.
I know, it's funny. I take, you know how Facebook always reminds us of memories?
Yes.
So we have these like parties we've done, book launches we've done from years and years ago. And I always reshare those and say, oh my gosh, Vic, we've grown up right in front of everybody.
I know. I can't even believe it. So just to give you a little heads up, you've been to my home on Shire in Cotacasa, and this is the week I am making the transition to downsizing, and I'm about ready to lose my mind. So I knew one day it would happen, but I just am not prepared for it. To take almost 6,000 square feet into 2,500, everything I want to save. I feel like the movie, you know, Steve Martin, the jerk, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. But it's not going to fit all in the new house. So I'm trying my best to downsize. So,
but you know what though? Think of it this way, Vic. This is the reframe. This is the coaching reframe, right? It's the downsize of all the clutter in the head too, though, right? I mean, you're getting rid of things, and there's therapy on this. You've seen, like, you and I know we're fans of the TV show Hoarders, right? Remember back in the day, we had talked about some ideas. When you literally get rid of things and you downsize, it's not just good for the house and the real estate, but the soul. So you got to embrace that.
Yeah, I can feel it. You know, I've got 14 years of all these big posters from being on the Housewives of Orange County. Yeah. And I was saying to Steve today, I said, where am I going to put them? And I thought, I'm going to put them all over the garage on the garage wall. So it'll be my little housewife, montage. So
I love it.
Anyways, let's talk about you and I. So you're a lawyer, and how did you end up working with Tony Robbins? I've had a privilege of meeting Tony over at Advisors Excel. So tell me about that, because you're always so positive, and I'm not always so positive. I try to be positive, but I feel like I need to call you more often when I'm not.
No, and we're going to change that. Definitely. Okay. So that's, I mean, I always say that the biggest gift I got from law school was Monica, my wife, as you've met Monica many times. So her and I went to law school together, but when I got out of law school, you know, Monica went the lawyer route. She became a prosecutor when we moved to Phoenix, and I went to work for Tony Robbins. And that was a kind of, you and I don't believe in chance. You know, we're believers in the universe, right?
Amen.
So I had a mutual friend, and I was just complaining. I said, buddy, I just don't want to work for the government making 38 grand a year. God bless the people that were doing that back in 1997, or people that still do. I just wanted entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And he said, you're not going to believe, we got a buddy working right here in San Diego, working for Tony Robbins. He's a sales guy. He makes 6 figures. He travels. He's influencing lives, and everything's paid for. And I'm like, I'm 26 years old. Why wouldn't I want to do that, right?
Sign me up. Yep.
So I said, yep. So I got the kind of the front of the line pass to the interview. It was much like the TV show, you know, The Apprentice. You had to do a video, and kind of like you know, with the Housewives, you have to present yourself. It's all about visual and your presentation. And I got the job. So needless to say, I packed my bags into 5 boxes, left San Diego, Mission Beach, flew to Atlanta, Georgia, met my new team, my mentor, Dan Lear, who you've met, Dan Lear.
Yes. How is Dan doing?
He's doing better. His health is doing incredible.
Cancer. Wow.
A lot of his mindset is just helped him incredibly. If you don't believe in mind over matter, I mean, shoot, Google Dan Lear and what he's gone through for the last 4 years with blood cancer. I mean, he's my mentor, my best friend, and he's the one that hired me for Tony Robbins. And I never looked back, Vic. I mean, 2 years on the road, and started his coaching company in 2000, 2001. And I get to meet incredible people like you years and years later because of kind of the ties that I had, you know, knowing the Tony technology.
Yeah, it's really incredible. You know, when I went to one of his, I want to call it a meeting, but his get together, and we were having to walk on the coals and do all that, and was in Chicago. And I thought, this is crazy. This is not something I want to be a part of. But then I broke through, and this was probably 15, 14 years ago. I broke through to understanding why he does this to us, and why he keeps the room cold, and why he does all this. But, you know, I think anybody listening to this that's heard of Tony Robbins or knows of the coaching. A lot, like you just said about Dan, who has blood cancer and is beating it. So much of our life is in our mind. So in the days where I was going through my turmoil on the show, when my ex and all that stuff that the show was trying to bring me down to, I thought I was going to die. I really thought the depression is so deep that I'm going to die. And then it was the prayer and the journaling, and I never saw a counselor through all that. I just went inside my head and I said, the truth, and the truth will always set you free. So stay strong, stay focused on your business. Because I was calling in sick to my own company going, I can't even work. I can't even function. And then something clicked and it was like, I got this. Yeah. And, Mike, my life has not been easy. It's been very bumpy. A lot of it's been exposed on the show. Much of it hasn't. But it is the mindset, and it is, we are not what people perceive us to be at times, in our lowest, darkest times. But, you look at life and you look at, okay, I'm going to be 60. Can you believe this?
No. I remember being at your 50th birthday party.
I know. Oh, to turn back the last 9 years. But,
I know.
You are and your life hasn't always been perfect, but you have the mindset of it is perfect. Yeah. And you project positivity no matter where you go. You're always positive. I mean, that's what attracted me to your talent, was just so positive. Yeah. And so the Tony Robbins, whether you believe or not believe in Tony Robbins or all that, what you must believe, I want our listeners to know, is that your mind is your biggest asset and biggest enemy, right? Sure. So
well, the challenge is that people don't realize. I had this conversation an hour ago with a coaching client. She's brand new and she's much like you, very go-getter, entrepreneurial, a hitter, influencer. And she goes, why do I get so in my head? And I said, it's real simple, because you talk to yourself at 1,200 words a minute in your head. And it's mostly not positive because you're worried about what people think. You're worried about judgment. You're worried about stress. You're worried about your kids. I mean, you have kids. There's not a minute that goes by, I guarantee you, if I put a recording device on your brain, you're not thinking about Bree, Michael, the grandkids, and everything that's going on, because that's just how you're wired. You're a parent. Right. So am I. I mean, Rhett and Cole, I'm thinking about them all the time. I dropped them off at school this morning at 7:50. I'm thinking about how they doing at noon. Are they doing well at the schoolyard? Are they getting picked on or not? Are they cool? Are they not? I mean, all that stuff is going through our head. So when we get so worked up in our brain, we have to create mechanisms, Vic, and this is what you and I've worked on in the past, is take a deep breath, calm yourself, right? Find your center, right? It's not just about breathing and meditation. It's just asking better questions. What's great about today? What am I grateful for? What am I excited about? What's positive about this moment? And when you ask better questions of yourself, you get better answers. That's the challenge that we're never taught as kids in high school. Hell, they didn't teach me that in law school.
No. So do you believe in journaling?
Oh, big time. Oh yeah. I got multiple journals. I mean, you can't really see but behind me, I've got all these journals back here that I've filled out over the years that have just kept me going. But here's what I've learned over COVID. People don't know how to do it. They just say, oh, Mike, you talk about journaling. Do you do this every day? The answer is no, I don't. I usually create opportunities during my week where I do my weekly planning on Sunday night. So I look ahead during my week ahead and say, okay, I got Tuesday at 2:00, 2 to 2:30 journal time. So then I shut off my cell phone. You know how this goes, girlfriend. Got to shut this thing off. If this is going to notify you about Facebook, Instagram, we got 14 different notifiers on any given cell phone. That's called distraction. So I turn it off and I focus for a half hour. But then even during that half hour, all I'm doing is I write a question atop the page. What am I really excited about right now? For a half hour, I write that one question. It's a prompt.
What you're grateful for, excited about. The positivity.
Every day is different. And there's different books out there, by the way. Any of your fans want to go to Google. Hell, I was in Target the other day getting Monica a gift card, and I saw a Target book, branded book, and it's got 500 prompted journal questions. I bought it. I'm like, I love questions. Yeah. So I can just rip them off. I could write a top journal, date it, and I can fill up a page in a half hour. That's journaling to me. It's not a diary. It's a chance to just exude what's on your mind in the moment.
Put it on paper. And then the vision board. So I did a vision board class on my Financially Fabulous with Vicki Facebook group. I have a free Facebook group for a lot of our members that have heard about it. But we do a lot about debt and consolidating debt, getting out of debt, living financially healthy. And I did a vision board workshop. And so a lot of people came onto it, and we did, I did it where it was a Facebook Live, and they were cutting their magazines and out. And I said, you have to manifest your reality however you want that to be, because we can manifest a really negative reality if that's in our mind. But when you put it on paper of what you want to manifest for the rest of your year or even the next 3 months, I think it can come true in that place, So
yeah. So the thing about vision boards, and everybody has a different sense. This is classic, what we call neurolinguistics, NLP, mindset language patterns. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, feeling. Some people are actually olfactory, which is smell. We all have that. You smell something, it reminds you of something. You hear a song, reminds you of something, right? It's a trigger. But visual sense, when it comes to your future, is pretty universal. So when you write something down, or you put it on a picture board, or like I have a dry erase board and my big vision board on my other side of my office, is more of like how I want to see it in advance. That's going to stick in the brain. It triggers different elements of the mind. This is not foo-foo. This is not feel-good stuff. This is facts.
Right.
Friends that are neurotherapists and say, tell me about this whole visualizing things in advance. Athletes have been doing this for years. It's the same concept with everyday life.
I just wrote that down because I think those of you that are listening and you're in your car or what have you, but if you're, seeing us live, I think you want to make some points down, write some things down to remember this, or go back to it after you save it, because so much that Mike is telling us, we kind of already know, but we don't implement it,
Totally.
So I've got so many questions for you. I want to follow through to my little guideline here.
All right.
What were some of the biggest things that you learned from Tony that you still use to this day?
So I'd say what's written is real. That's a big one. What's written is real. If you only plan it, it's only a possibility. What's written is real. You got to write stuff down. I don't care if it's in a journal or a calendar. You got to write it down. It's a to-do list when you go to the store. I don't care what it is. It's write it down. Get it out of your brain. That's a big one.
I'm writing that down. What's written is real.
What's written is real. What's planned is only possible. Meaning if you're in possibility phase, that means you're only in planning phase. So you got to write it down. That's a big one. The second thing is the power of questions. He has a quote. I don't know if he's like trademarked it or copyrighted it or whatever, but the quality of your questions is equal to the quality of your life. So if you have a bad quality of life, I don't care if it's health, fitness, financial, which I have questions for you, by the way, girlfriend, in a minute, because I want to hear about some of the stuff you're doing with like Debtcom and some of that stuff. So if you don't mind me flipping the script on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. So, but that's a big thing. So if you're asking bad questions of yourself about your financial future or your health or your fitness, it's because you're not creating those question opportunities. That's why journaling is so powerful. So quality of questions equals quality of life. That's a big one. And the last one I would say, and I got millions to share, but in the essence of time, is meanings. I didn't really understand what the concept of meaning was, even when I worked with Tony, until I read the book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz. He was a medical doctor that went through the ridiculous thing that was called the Holocaust. I mean, amazing story. But he's a doctor that came home and was really amazed by how people were inspired to live despite the fact that they had these horrific life situations. That's why if you look back in the history books, like Gestapo, they would take away everything, your personal effects, your pictures, your jewelry, because they didn't want you to have a sense of purpose. They wanted to take away your why. And that was equal to life. And that inspired Viktor Frankl to write the book. And when I read that book, oh my gosh, Vic, it just changed my life. And then it kind of reheard what Tony was always telling me is like, Mike, whatever you make it mean, it's up to you, pal. It's up to you. Right. Somebody looks at you the wrong way, it's up to you. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, up to you. So what I started to learn was the ownership of decision-making. And I teach that to my kids. Rhett and Colt are now 12. Rhett's going to be 13, Vic, by the way.
He's just born when I saw you.
No,
literally.
I have a quick story on that. So when I came to film with you, when we filmed in your office that way, I know we didn't make the final cut with a shot. He was 13 months. I came home from that shot in Orange County with you that weekend, that party that we threw at your backyard. And I came on, he answered the door at 13 months because he was upright. And he had this big Band-Aid on his head. I don't know if you remember this. He had fallen and he gotten stitches over his forehead.
Oh, yes. You told me
when
that.
I was in the meeting with you, but Monica was such an amazing mom, whatever, protector. She didn't want to interrupt me and you because she knew how important this was to us, because she knew I would get on a plane and fly home and we wouldn't film everything. So Brett still has a little scar over his eye.
Heart.
I call it the Orange County Vicki scar.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Little memory of that.
It's there forever. It's there forever.
they always got a little something on their face.
Yep.
My grandsons, I have 3 grandsons now, by the way.
I see the pictures. I love seeing the pictures.
Brianna had a number 3 boy 4 months ago. So they moved back to Chicago, where I'm from. So it's good. All is good over there.
So Vicki in Chicago, look at that over there.
There you go. The Bulls, the Blackhawks. Yeah, amen.
Michael Jordan, baby.
We love our Chicago sports team. So
I know you do.
my grandsons, it was so funny the other day. They said they went to school and Troy is wearing, a very small Cub shirt that I bought him years ago, like when he was 4 or 5, and now he's 8. And so he said, Nana, I am the only one that wears a Cub shirt to the school, but mine's too small. Could you please get me another Cub shirt? I'm like, done. Done. It's coming in the mail, baby.
Tomorrow.
So it's so fun having grandchildren. But so let's go back to 2009.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when we met.
Yes.
We met through an insurance connection with some of the leaders, Jeff Eilers.
Yeah.
So I haven't talked to Jeff in forever.
He's still in Orange County. He's still there.
Is he really? Well, I write there.
He's at Mutual of Omaha. Yeah.
Is he still there? Because I write their long-term care policies every now and then. Yeah. But, I've kind of shifted into more financial retirement planning since we met. But it's been a great ride for me. I'm getting tired a little bit, but it's still been a great ride.
Yeah, sure.
So your book, What's Your Story? Discover the man behind your dad.
Yeah, what's your story? Yeah, right there is the cover.
So I know you are big on questions and getting to know people. So what's your story about that book? Tell me. Here's
a little known fact that that weekend, I'm hitting you with this live. This is fresh. So that whole going to be with you in Orange County, coming home and seeing Red at 13 months with a scar on his face. The next week I had a plane trip, 2 plane trips. I speak a lot. And I remember thinking, gosh, I travel a lot and, I'm influencing important people. I mean, I'm a part of their lives, you and the people I'm working with at the time. What if, and we had a bad bumpy ride on a plane ride. And I thought, what if this plane went down? Like I was gone last week. He got cut, hit, stitches. I didn't even know about it. Monica came home and surprised me with this trip while I was with Vicki. What if this plane trip were to go down a week later and I don't have my life story out? So already being a journalist, I started writing stuff. So I actually created my own questions, and then I got prompts. That's where I got the book, Questions for My Father, from Vincent Stanforth, who's my co-author. And I didn't know Vincent from anybody. It was recommended to me and gifted to me. So what I did is I rewrote all the questions in his book into a journal in advance. And I bought this nice, big, thick leather journal. And my goal was to write into it everything I could possibly write. How did I meet Mom? What were important rituals as a kid? So God forbid, if the plane were to ever go down in my travels, Monica could gift this book, this journal of the story. So that's how it started. The story
of you with your dad, or the story of you?
No, the story of my life. The story of my life.
Love that.
How I grew up, how my father was, my religious beliefs, all that stuff was in my journal.
Got it.
And for years and years, Vic, I had this goal that one day when it was right, I wanted to reach out to the author that gave me the prompts, Vincent Stanforth, who wrote the book called Questions for My Father. That was his book that was written years and years prior. To just reach out and say, hey, man, what if we rewrote the book? I don't know who you are. You inspired me. So I literally cold called them. And I cold called them on LinkedIn and an email and every way I could. And 2 days, I didn't hear from this guy. And I've been building up this for years and years and years to have the courage to reach out to this person I didn't know. Finally, he reached out to me. Of all places, I was in church when he responded. God was winking on me. Amen. And he said, buddy, I don't know you from anybody. I checked out your LinkedIn profile. Looks like you're doing amazing things. He was living in the UK at the time. He still is. And I was in the US, and he said, let's do it. So I got on the phone with him. We gelled quickly, and he's like, let's repurpose the book. It's your show. I'm now an older guy. I'm not an author anymore. I'm out of the game. You're in it. Let's do it. So we wrote the book and we named it called What's Your Story? And he's my co-author, and we had to update the questions. He had a lot of questions he had written 20 years ago that were dated, about history and stuff like that. So even September 11th hadn't happened when he wrote the book. So we wrote one of the questions. Hey, do you remember where you were on September 11th?
Yeah.
One of our questions. So we repurposed the book in 16, and I went on the media tour 16, 17, and it's been doing great ever since.
So proud of you. Proud of you. That's awesome. I love that you're influencing not only your children's lives, but also other people that you're touching, So business. You're a business and life coach, right? So you've got kind of that dual role. I think that if you own a business out there, those that do, we've had a tough year. You've had a tough year, Mike. I've had a tough year. You know, the way that I prospect is through seminars. And so I couldn't do any feed seminars. So my pipeline got really dry. And so I had to then recontact all my current clients, and some wanted to meet, some didn't want to meet, try to do the Zoom thing. That didn't work really well. So I think the positive mindset that I just felt like, you know, this is something that'll be in history forever. And just like 2008, just like 9/11, just down the different things that have happened, you know, divorce, death, all the different things that have happened in people's lives. This is just another history lesson, right? What is going on. So I think that mindset, those of you that are listening, is so important. That's what I want you to take away from our time with Mike today, because, you know, you're probably one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life. Sincerely, like really one of the most positive. So when we talk about business and life advice, why is there such a correlation between your business life and your purpose? So for me, I have a purpose because I'm changing people's retirement lives or insurance lives, or I deliver a death claim check to somebody that never, you know, really expected it. So talk to me about like that, you know, between that.
You know, that's one thing that I've always respected about you, Vic, is I remember way back in obviously all of our private conversations will always remain there. And you know that. I've never breached that, and I never will.
That's okay. It's pretty much public by now, I'm sure.
But you know that we've had private conversations. You know what I mean. We've had private conversations. They'll always remain there. But I remember the year and a half or so after we had met, and we were talking about some decision-making that you had to do around career and the show and stuff like that. And you always came back to that. You're like, but Michael, I got Michael, your son, right? And you're talking about Brianne at the time and the age they were and the juncture they were in their life. That was the whole purpose and the why of who you were and what drove you in your personal life, right? Your kids and the inspiration of your brand from a mom perspective. But then when you talked about the business, you talked about that story that you tell a lot about delivering that check to someone, right, that really needed at that time way back. And you were in tune with that. And that's why I think you're so great at what you do, because you're in tune with purpose and why. That's the problem that most people have to get over. They don't really get in tune with it. They're just collecting a paycheck. They just have a job, you know. And I always say, if you call your thing you do every day a job, J-O-B, it's called just over broke. Right. It's not really. It's just a paycheck. So you have to find that sense of purpose. And I know Simon Sinek's talked about your purpose and your why, and you got to read the books. You can look at his TED Talks. And even my clients that are high-end, you know, educated people will watch the 20-minute TED Talk from Simon Sinek. They wrote this years ago. Everyone knows what they do. Everyone knows how they do it, but do they know why they do it? That's the bullseye. And I think that's the biggest key during COVID, you know, the last year. People got a chance to get more in tune with that, Vic. I think that people are home more. Homeschooling. I know when you're in California, I'm in Arizona, we were a little bit more opened up than some states during the whole thing. But I think that when you get a sense of what's really important to you, and you can really, really like take it home and own it and say, this is really important to me. I love this. How many people I've lost track over the last year that have literally quit careers to go into something different. Somebody who leaves a 6-figure income to go into teaching because they love being with the kids, because they made an influence during the COVID times, right? Yep. So I think that's the biggest part, is the tie between personal and professional. You've always been very good. That was before you and I met. You were already doing that type of stuff, and that's why you're great at what you did. But I think that's the thing that, you know, your listeners, your fans need to really take home is you got to do this stuff. You got to get the journal. You got to write it. What's written is real. This stuff all ties together. And once you kind of nail it, that's when things start to click. Yep.
And it's incredible how fast life goes. If you 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds that are listening and seeing us right now, it's incredible how fast life goes. I was 42 years young when I started the Housewives of Orange County. I'm 59 now. Yeah. When you look at that journey, my life has been documented, but it went lickety split. I mean, Michael, it's just incredible how fast this has gone. And when I think about my family, it brings tears to my eyes. My children are successful. They're out on their own. My daughter's a mother. My son says, I never want to be a father. He wants to live the single life. He's now
he'll change. He'll tell me. He'll come around. He'll come around.
If he meets the right girl. So he's in Hawaii right now, living the Hawaii dream.
I see him. I watch him.
I haven't seen him a year. Right? It's incredible. I'm like, are you coming home to mama? He's like, Mom, you can come to me. I'm like, oh, so when you look at raising good quality people that you're doing with your sons, that's my greatest attribute is raising good people. And those of you that think 18 years is long or 20 years is long raising kids, it goes by so fast. And now my little Troy is 8 and my Owen's 6 and my little Hank is 4 months old. I just look at life like, wow, we got one life here. And so my podcast of Reality with Vicki, I want to talk about all the things that life brings us and our choices in partners, our choices in staff, our choices in friends. I always told my children, you are who you hang around with. I'm sure you tell your kids the same thing. You got to surround yourself with quality people that can mentor you to be a better person, because I want to be a better person every day. And the Housewife show always didn't make me. I was screaming like a crazy person when they said I was, having threesomes. I'm like, I never had a threesome in my life, So,
I got a quick one, and then I have a question for you. I got to get this question out, but I got a quick story. So I know people love these stories about you that people may not know. Don't worry, this is G-rated. But I remember when Jeff Eilers had first hooked us up, you and I were on the phone, and you were very pleasant. You weren't, like, I didn't know what to expect. I work with celebrities and professional athletes all the time, so it's no big deal. I'm not awestruck by people. I'm impressed by people. I respect people, but I'm not awestruck by people.
Neither, yeah.
So frankly, I had never watched the show. And one of the first questions you asked me, you're like, do you watch the show? And I said, I actually don't, Vicki. I don't. She's like, good. That's good. She goes, don't watch them. She goes, just take me for who I am right now in my life. Don't go back. And of course, I had to watch a couple just to get perspective, right? To know who Tamara was and all the people on the show, just to get perspective. But that's what I learned. It's like, this is not her identity. Like, this is entertainment, people. This is entertainment, because if you can hear what I hear in a 45-minute private coaching conversation and the world can see it, people will go, oh my God, why doesn't that come out more on the show? Well, here's why. Because there's a thing called Bravo. There's a thing called Andy Cohen. There's this thing called ratings. There's a thing called editing, right? Even the stuff that you and I did, we did 2 or 3 different shots over different times. It was just too pure and authentic. It wasn't dramatic enough. And that's why I didn't make the cut.
I know, but you know what? Hindsight, I'm glad we did what we did, and
100%.
We stayed true to who we are. I think that selling insurance is boring. Doing my events is boring, but if they would have done that, the viewers would have seen my real life, not this going to lunch with people in the middle of the day. I don't do lunch in the middle of the day. I do a protein shake, and that's it. So I'm not a coffee collector.
So I have to ask you this. So, because I have people, I'm going to share this with some of my fans, as you know. So Debtcom, you got to tell me, like, what's the deal? Like, what's the latest and greatest? And talk to me about what's going on with you.
Super excited about that relationship. It's still forming. I need to go to South Florida to do some commercials. They're looking at making me the face, like Progressive Flo. Who the hell is Flo? I don't know who Flo is and why she's Miss Progressive, but Debtcom is really interested in my brand, meaning that, there's so many people that have been in debt. They don't know how to consolidate debt. They just keep opening up more credit cards. They're taking loans out on their mortgages, and they're, refinancing and taking money out. And that's the worst thing that people can do. Your equity is your biggest asset. And so I just always look at that, and people say, okay, I got a line of credit on my house and I paid off my kids' student loans. Wrong answer. That equity in your home is something that we want to preserve. So I look at all these mistakes we make, and we got like one shot at retiring with a little bucket of money so we can live a decent retirement. So I'm at the final phases of people's work careers. When I look at people at age 50, 55 and older, what did you do those first 30 years of working? And it's incredible when you see, well, I lost my house in 2008, or I bought too big of a house, or I spent money on a BMW and a car that I really couldn't afford, but I wanted to keep up with the Joneses, or I got into credit card debt and I had to take a line of credit on my home to pay that off. So Debtcom and I are creating an app and a program that will actually teach younger people, our 20 and 30-year-olds and our 40-year-olds. And I've got so much insight and knowledge on this because I did it right by accident. I mean, I had really good parents. I've always been a good steward of money. But I also knew getting in debt was my enemy, and I never got into debt. I don't have credit card debt. I have an American Express. I pay it off every month. I get my points and I get my free airfare. I do not believe in paying 19 or 20% on something that costs you, $100. So when you're charging things, and Debtcom and I believe in all this, you are going to end up paying the piper sometime down the road. It's going to magnify, and you're then going to have to file bankruptcy or do all these other things. So I want to get to the 20 and 30-year-olds. I want to get to the 40-year-olds and say, what are you doing to save for retirement? Let's get our Roth started, not our traditional IRAs. I talked a little bit about that, but those of you that are listening, if you have an option in your 401k, go Roth. Roth means you don't get the tax deduction right now, but guess what? All the money it makes for those next 20 years is tax-free. So why not get the taxes out of the way? So those are the things that I want to teach people that I've known and but we need to get to our younger generation. My grandchildren know about money. I mean, I'm teaching them money right now because for every age they are, I don't know if you've done this with your kids. Troy's 8, he gets $80. He's going to be 9 in September. He gets $90.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then every year,
I like that.
And then every year he gets older, he knows exactly what his present is. It's money. And guess what? Half of it goes into savings, and then we go and buy what he wants with the other half. So I'm also teaching them to tithe, and 10% of that is going to go to church. And so when we teach our children young, I believe they're going to be a better steward of money, because money is just a tool to give us the life we want, right? Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's really important, I think, for my fans, when they hear this, the word steward. I'm all about language patterns, right, Vic? You talk about me being a positive thinker. It's a lot of it's I've conditioned my mind to say positive things, even though I might not feel it. So instead of it's a problem, it's a challenge. Instead of trying, it's doing, right? So instead of a should, it's a must. So it's just little simple things, but the fact that just rolls off your tongue, I want to highlight that, because that's not most people. When they talk about money, they don't say the word steward. They say plan, debt free. I mean, all these negative things that we get bombarded with the media. So when you kind of think of yourself as a steward or a shepherd or a leader of the money, that implies you're in control of it. And I think that's what a point that people miss during, financial education in general.
Well, I just made that word up years ago, and I love it because I feel like
I love it.
We don't want to be a victim of money. We want to be a steward. It's our choice what to spend our money on. When kids are younger, my grandchildren cannot spend their $90 and their $60. They know half of it's going in their savings account. And they were so excited. They both said, Nana, I've got $300 in there now. And because I give them $10 for different things.
Yeah, sure.
They earn allowances and stuff, but it's so cool for them to understand it. And I believe the more I teach them, and I'm going to teach them what my dad taught me. And I talked on this. I don't know about you with your parents with money, but my father used to come home with his paycheck, and let's say it was $2,000 at the time. And let's say he had $1,500 in bills. He would have me literally write the checks out. He would sign them. And then he'd say $500 left over. We're going to put X amount of dollars in an envelope for groceries, for your mother's clothes, because my mother was a clothes freak. And then we've got, all these different things. So I learned money, and then I had to deduct those checks out of his checkbook in his little check register. And I realized that, that $2,000 was not his. He was responsible to pay the electric, the mortgage, the cars,
Yeah.
So when I was 7th and 8th grade, sitting at the kitchen table, writing bills out, and I was like a freak about money at the time and accounting, and it got me into this business because I'm appalled and sometimes shocked to see how people could get that $2,000, not put anything aside for them, and spend it all. And not be responsible. So you have to be a steward of money. You have to, or you're going to get caught with being dependent on somebody else for your financial happiness, right?
Yeah, you know what? There are two things that you just said that inspired a thought. One thing, Monica, she takes care of a lot of our stuff, financially. She's kind of the lawyer, detail person. Yep. I mean, obviously,
somebody's got to do it. Yeah,
she's very good at it. But I have always had this thing, and I got this from my father indirectly. He didn't even teach it to me. I love going to the bank when I get a check, stroking the check and cashing and depositing it. She's like, Michael, just take a picture of it. You can put it right in there. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like that's, it's personal. I know I'm 48 years old and I have money. I get it, but it's just this seeing it, and that's the challenge in this day with the younger generation is, cryptocurrency or Dogecoin or whatever, all that stuff that's going on in the world. But the fact that when I have, and I won't name the name, there's been plenty, so I'm not calling the individual out, but we had somebody who was helping us nanny for a period of time years ago. This is only like 2 or 3 years ago. And it was a very like a weekend type of thing. And we literally had put everything into the check to pay her. And she was about to leave and she kept hanging out by our little bar area of their house. And I go, what's going on? And she's like, can you help me fill out the check? And I'm like, do you not know how to write a check? You're 23 years old. She's like, I don't. What do I put in the memo? I'm like, wow. I remember I was like floored that she literally didn't know what to put. We put the date, the signature, and let her try to fill out the rest. She didn't know how to do it. And I'm not picking on the younger
generation. The reality
generation.
of these kids, they're not balancing their checkbooks. They're just seeing what's in the account. And that's
bingo.
Mm-hmm.
They're not cashing the checks. They're not writing the checks. They're not paying the bills like your pops did. So there's a whole different paradigm shift. And I think that's why when you're working with Debtcom or whomever you're going to be partnered with in the future on this, it's the education piece from the time, Troy's 8 now? You said 8? From 8 years old up until 25 years old, this whole new generation needs to get keen to what's happening here. It's important.
Yep. And hopefully I'll be alive a long time so I can see the results of all this.
You're going to be 100, I guarantee it. I can't wait till your 100th birthday party.
As long as I'm whooping it up, right? So we're going to get close to the end because I have another call shortly. But I want to have you tell our listeners what's the biggest things that you've learned this past year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, other than the obvious, being around the kids, I mean, the one thing that I think people may not know about people like you and I is how much we travel. And I know you're a traveler. I know you're placed down in Mexico and I know your travels.
Yep. I love to travel.
But when you're putting up 250,000 miles in the air on average for myself, or doing keynotes, 4 or 5 times a month, on stage for 75 minutes, walk off, I'm not 35 anymore. Like when you and I met, you're depleted. You come home from East Coast time, you come to the West Coast time. The kids don't care that you were on a stage giving your juice to 1,000 people or 10,000 people, and you're tired at 9 o'clock and you want to go to bed. Colt Man wants to tell me about his project that he built when I came home. So what I realized during COVID was how much I had been on the road became my normal. And it got me sad for a period of time, to be honest with you, Vicki. I wouldn't say depressed, but it got me really reflecting on my life, thinking, how much did I miss? Because I'm not an absentee father. I've always coached. I don't miss games, very involved. Monica and are very hands-on with stuff. But it made me kind of, I guess, look in my heart and say, how much have I missed if I was around more? And that was the biggest thing. I would say in terms of business, the biggest thing on the business side was the importance of pivoting. This office, the way you see this office, or this is my office, my outside of my home. I had negotiated this lease when no one was in here. I made it into a half studio, half office in literally April, like 2 weeks into COVID. Got this fancy microphone on Amazon for $90. Got all my whole setup because I realized I'm not going to see anyone live for a long time. I have to pivot. Right. And this become my new home. I mean, sitting in this big high chair that I bought, Monica got me for Father's Day last year. This is what I do. I sit in the chair and I get on the microphone and I pivot to virtual. So I think when you're in sales, marketing, you're a professional and you're not back to where you were, you have to really look back to that purpose and why thing we talked about, but really think about if I were going to pivot into something and still have my voice and be effective, what would it be? Would it be video? Would it be marketing? Would it be LinkedIn? Would it be doing things differently? So I think that's the thing I learned from. Yeah. I have to be flexible.
Yeah, this virtual thing has really taken a life of its own now. When you look at the freeways being almost empty now,
I know,
working from their homes, and
I haven't been on the 405 or the 5 in a while, or even the toll road down in Orange County. But
it's empty. I mean, we are just coming to work today. It used to be full on traffic, but I got some girlfriends that are attorneys, and they're working from home and they're doing it all just fine. So the other question I have is takeaways for listeners that are absolute musts when it comes to implementing changes in 2021.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is making time smaller and this is kind of new from when you and I first started, when I had you doing goal planning and life, creating a life plan, right? You have your pillars, family, health, career, all the things that support you, right, in your life. Those are the areas of your life. And then you create goals around those, specific, measurable, dated. That's what I do every year with all my clients. So you have a written document, you can hold it up and show it to people and say, this is my goal plan for health, family, career, finance, right? And I've always been a 1-year planner, but COVID, back to your other question, which will hit this one, it got me thinking shorter. Because I didn't know. I mean, Vic, I went to the gym, true story, in June of last year in Scottsdale, and I was turned around at the door because I thought it was opening up, and the governor that morning had said, nope, no more gyms. And I'm like, wow. No more gym. I got to go get my cardio. I got to get my meditation in my steam room. Nope. So I realized, there's a lot of things outside of my control, our control during these crazy times that's been called COVID. And I just learned to chunk things down. So even this year, if you looked at my goal plan, I don't even look at by the end of the year. I say Q2. That's what I'm in right now. Q2. Between now and June 30th, here's my goals. Now, when June 30th rolls around, it's July 1, it's all 4th of July time, and we're all celebrating the independence of this country. Then I think about Q3. So that's the biggest thing I've learned personally. And team, I've never done that. I've always been a 1-year, 18-month, 3-year, 5-year planner. And I realized, you know what, that doesn't work. I don't even know what's going to happen in a year, let alone 3 or 5. So when I get CEOs saying, hey, I should have a 1-3-5 plan. And I say, you know what? I know you heard a podcast or a video from me on a stage like 5 years ago. I don't believe that anymore. Just scrap it. Okay. It's Q2, Q3, Q4. Yep. Write stuff down and look at it every week, every Sunday.
I think that actually is best to do even going forward out of COVID, because I think so much can happen within a year. You don't know what's going to happen, 5 months from now, but if we shorten it into 3 months, goal plan, I think it's more attainable. And then we can do benchmarks for the whole year. So I have a board up there on my wall. It says what I need to produce for the year, just to make my staff healthy, give them their bonuses and things like that. So I think that's good. I think that's good just to implement with or without COVID. Do it per quarter, stay focused. If you don't hit it, go into the next quarter, right?
Yep. So, and by the way, we're talking as entrepreneurs here. I definitely have a plan for my year, like how much revenue I want to hit, how I have to take care of the bills or whatever. Business-wise. That still has not changed. I just look at that 1-year goal I set back in December of last year during COVID and said, Mike, that should be a great target to hit for the year. Write it down, put it on the dry erase board. What's written is real. But don't obsess on the 1 year. Just focus 1 week at a time. Every quarter, reassess. You still have the big goal. I mean, there's things we all want to do, bucket list. I'm not saying get rid of those. You still got to have those things written down, but just chunking it down, we call it chunking in neurolinguistics. When you chunk it into small parts, it's more palatable to the brain. It's more easy to hit.
Okay, you and I are going to continue this conversation privately. I adore you. I love you. Say hi to Monica and the boys.
Thank you.
Let's stay in touch. And thank you, listeners, for listening to Reality with Vicki. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me 5 stars, and stay tuned to what Mike Lindstrom's up to. Okay.
Love it. Thanks.
Vic.
Love you.
Okay. Love you too. Thank you. Bye.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being. Supports muscle strength and endurance. Cognitive function. Powerful liver support. Energy. Helps blood sugar regulation. Superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.